Assalamu alaikum. Chapter 2, the purpose of study. And we continue with our reflection on this chapter. And at this point, we're halfway through the first page of the chapter. Chapter 2 is entitled The Purpose of Study. And we mentioned that study is a means to an end. It's a means to an end. And that end is the pleasure of Allah. So that knowledge which is not accompanied by action. So that knowledge which is not accompanied by action is ignorance. So that the life of piety which is not accompanied by knowledge is ignorance. Imam Burhanuddin relates Imam Zarnuji rahimahullah, Imam Burhanuddin being the author of the Hidayah, the book of fiqh that is commonly used in the Hanafi madhab. He recited a poem by an unnamed author, and he says, "An immoral man of learning is a great evil, yet a greater evil is an ignoramus leading a godly life. Both are a great trial everywhere to whomever clings to his religion." So that we learn here that the pious person without knowledge and the person with knowledge without action, these are personality types, models, which are to be discarded. We are warned against these models so that we rise to a standard of excellence, so that we remove from ourselves hypocrisy and superstition. One must intend with knowledge, Imam Zarnuji rahimahullah says, to be thankful to Allah for a healthy mind and a sound body. One should not, however, intend to attract people toward himself, or reap the vanities of the world, or obtain the honors from the king and the like. In other words, through knowledge we shouldn't seek to cultivate those influence techniques which will grant us a position with people so as to gain from them. But rather, through knowledge we should serve the people, seeking the face and the pleasure of Allah. The role and the task of a sage, then, is quite different than the sophist of the times past in Greek culture, which would use his oratory powers. The sophist would use his powers of speaking as a mode to influence others, to take from their wealth, and to influence their decisions for the sake of benefit of self. The path of the sage in Islam is a path by which we serve humanity, by which we serve humanity through our knowledge. Because ultimately our service is to Allah. Our ibadah is to Allah. But he who is the best of persons is he who is the person who benefits others. Muhammad bin al-Hasan rahimahullah said, "If the people, all of them, were my slaves, I would emancipate them and free myself from being their patron." SubhanAllah. When we look at the reality that is being taught here, the high standard of morality and a model of refined character, then we are left with nothing but to look at ourselves and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to make the effort to transform ourselves, and to intend to transform ourselves, and to take the time to transform ourselves, and to invest all our energy to exert ourselves to transform ourselves. So then we should have a clear picture from what we're reading of what type of person we should be. If we want to understand the reality of this text, then let it be that this text stands no different than any other motivational text which calls you to excellence, except that this text calls you to the pleasure of Allah and not just to self-development. The ideals and principles in this text are such that if implemented in any situation in life, that one could be successful, whether in business or in education or in a trade. One could be successful because indeed these are the principles of industry, sincerity, and integrity of character. And if we listen to what Stephen Covey has said, the first 150 years of success literature in North America, particularly in the United States, was a focus on character and industry before it devolved or before it moved away from that type of approach to an approach of influence and trickery and power. Not that influence and power are not goods in themselves if the end that they are trying to achieve is noble and the means that are pursued are refined and virtuous. But the point here is that industry and character is what moves a nation. Excellence and refinement is what takes the human being from being an animal to being close to the angels, in fact, surpassing the angels.